Welcome back to Total F1. Today we're going to discuss the relationship between Formula 1 and tobacco sponsorships. Once upon a time, we saw big advertisements of the major tobacco brands on the liveries of different Formula 1 teams, and in return, it became a main source of income for them. However, we don't see such large tobacco advertising on the modern F1 cars, as it's currently prohibited. But tobacco companies are still investing in Formula 1 teams and promoting their cigarette brands using genius marketing tricks. So let's talk about this relationship between Formula 1 teams and tobacco companies in detail. But before we proceed, hit the subscribe button and smash the bell icon for more exciting updates. Formula 1 races are considered as one of the most watched sports events in the world, as billions of people watch them. Tobacco companies prefer to advertise on Formula 1, as it acts as a platform that provides access to a global audience with less effort. Currently, tobacco companies are investing around $4.5 billion annually on the F1 advertising process, making it a major source of income of top F1 teams. The first ever cigarette company to sponsor a Formula 1 team was Gold Leaf Cigarettes in 1968. They came with a big sponsorship for the Lotus F1 team, painting the car with the company's signature colors red, white and gold. With time, this series turned into the pinnacle of motorsport, and big brands in the tobacco industry like Marlboro, Camel and John Player became the dominant sponsors of different F1 teams. Once there was an era in the 1980s and 1990s, this great sport was made to sell cigarettes, as most of the teams were backed by major cigarette brands. Lotus had partnerships with John Player and Camel in that era. Before starting the Ferrari-Marlboro partnership in the 1990s, this PMI-owned cigarette brand sponsored McLaren, which was at the peak of its performances. Williams' team also had partnerships with brands like Camel and Rothmans. This had turned into an inseparable partnership with time, and in 1995, 9 out of the top 10 ranked teams in the championship kept cigarette companies as their major sponsors. The ban on tobacco advertising was introduced in the early 2000s, as many countries and sports decided to stop taking tobacco money for their operations. However, the FIA was not ready to lose its main source of income at once, and waited till the end of the 2006 season to ban the tobacco sponsorships. The majority of F1 teams hated that decision, as they didn't want to lose their major source of revenue. So, some major brands decided to leave the sport, creating a void that was impossible to fill in terms of money. But a few companies decided to stay with F1 teams, sponsoring the F1 teams regardless of those imposed bans. They came up with clever advertising tricks to get the attention of people for their cigarette brands, while respecting the conditions of the ban. Philip Morris International, which is called by the acronym PMI, has been a major sponsor of the Ferrari team for more than 2 decades. When the ban was imposed, PMI continued its association with the Italian racing outfit, using different types of marketing tips to promote their cigarette brands, especially Marlboro. First, they came with a barcode logo, which resembled the original Marlboro logo, and it was a prominent part of the Ferrari livery until it was scrapped in 2010. Then they came with the Mission Winnow logo, which complies with the Formula 1 regulations, and it became a permanent part of the Ferrari livery over the last decade. However, it was dropped from the Ferrari livery in 2022, making some changes to their agreement. But behind the scenes, PMI is still investing in this Italian racing outfit. The British American Tobacco Company is another major cigarette company which shows a greater involvement with Formula 1 over decades. Once, this cigarette company owned an F1 team as well. It became the owner of BAR F1 team in 1999 and continued its operations until it was sold to Honda. In the recent past, they have had major involvement with McLaren F1 team as a sponsor. Since 2019, the British American Tobacco Company started to display logos of the company's vaping and alternative products and its A Better Tomorrow initiative. In order to make them comply with Formula 1 regulations, this company always categorized all these branding under next generation products, which are said to have no involvement with their current tobacco-related product range. When the partnership between McLaren and the British Tobacco Company came to huge criticism from the people involved in the health sector in 2019, McLaren CEO Zak Brown came forward to defend this partnership, saying not to see it as a tobacco sponsor. Despite these advertising bans on F1, these cigarette companies sell billions of tobacco-related products globally, causing deaths to more than 8 million people. With the transfer of ownership of the sport to the Liberty Media company, we can see a rapid rise of the fan base over the last few years. The major proportion of this fan base is under the age of 25, and F1 has become an attractive platform for cigarette companies to access this young community. That is why some of the cigarette companies are still investing billions of dollars for indirect branding on F1 liveries. Even though the FIA showed huge support towards achieving the aims of the World Health Organization to reduce the addiction of the global community towards cigarettes, Formula 1 teams are still accepting money from these companies to continue their operations. But we can't see big advertisements of cigarette companies on F1 cars like in the past. In parallel to that, we can see a lot of lower-ranked F1 teams are facing financial difficulties in finding sponsors to carry out their operations. This has led to change the attention of F1 teams more towards paid drivers who are coming in with multi-million sponsorships sufficient enough to fund their operations. We are not going to promote cigarette brands. However, this ban has caused more negative effects on the sport, as most of the teams are still facing difficulties in finding sponsorships. What do you think about the role of cigarette companies in the sport? Share your thoughts in the comment section below. Thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, subscribe to the channel to get more exciting Formula 1 news. See you in the next video, guys. Goodbye.